Well, I'm talking with Claire Wells here, who's a mother and also a councillor in Douglas, and I make that point now because it may have our conversation may cross paths in that thing. We heard you on the state radio this morning. Well, I did anyway. It was an interesting interview, and that's why I thought I'd like to get you as well, because maybe a bit more time, a bit more, so you can explain your course. But if anyone hasn't already noticed and read the story, the merging these two schools is your concern. Your reason for overall the concern of these St Thomas's and Scoill Vallajeelt, isn't it?
So I think that is the point. The point is not a merge. It is not a merge of the schools. It is a co-location, which means that St Thomas's will be their own entity, and so will Scoill Vallajeelt in the same building. They are taking 4 of our classrooms at the moment, and they are being used by, well, they will be used by St Thomas's. There will be doors that will shut and will have card access to them, and that will effectively separate the schools. There will be separate entrances, separate head teacher, separate teachers, separate everything. And we just feel that that's not really the right message in this day and age to be giving to our children.
So are you completely against this, or do you see a way of it working that you could be happy with, these two schools coexisting in the same footprint?
I don't think it can work from the point of view that it is the wrong moral message to be teaching our children. I have no doubts that it will go ahead.
It seems very late in the day anyway to be doing this, surely. I mean, shouldn't you be yelling about this much earlier?
We were. So we were told about it, told that it was going to happen just before the summer holidays last year, which gave us very little chance to do anything about it at that point. We then had a meeting at the beginning of this year, so this school year, at which point it was sort of made clear to us that this was a done deal and that we had no say. And then the next meeting we were told that a notice was being put out, and at that point we could object, and which we have done. And the questions that we have asked have been answered, but they've been answered in a way that suits the education department. They haven't really addressed the problems that we are having with the situation, and they've just said if they didn't like the question or they didn't know how to answer the question, they've just brushed over it and said it's not an issue, and we don't need to worry about it. Okay,
I mean they've said two complaints only. I think that was the way that it didn't. When I heard that in two, it must have been 2 complaints. That's very unusual because I thought there was more. But it's of course, and this is what you talk about the wording, is it? Because there's been more people complaining, but only 2 separate letters have gone in.
Yeah. So officially there were 4 letters that were sent in.
4.
2 of which were disregarded because as it's a notice that goes out, you have to have at least 10 signatures per objection. So 2 of them were automatically discarded. Then there were 2 other letters which went in. I believe one of them had just over 10 signatures and the other one had just over 400 signatures. So I think again the department are trying to disguise, probably not the right word, just skew the facts to make them suit them.
I've had a look at this, one of them anyway, and everyone's in Peel, for instance. I know you're going to give me that look like that shouldn't make anything, but of course their point is that it's got nothing to do with Peel. You with me? I mean, you put any sort of thing like that on someone's top in a shop, they would probably sign it because they whatever. But it's not affecting them, is it at all? Discuss.
Okay, so in the papers today, there is a thing about a petition for abuse, isn't there? There's a petition going around. So,
well, is that different?
I'm going to ask you the question. So, if we use your logic, that it's not going to affect everybody in the community. So, does somebody who hasn't been a victim of abuse, they can't sign that letter? No.
I'm trying. I mean, I think you know exactly what I'm saying here. That the school being where it is, it's people. No one from Peel is actually going to that school. I guess there's no one going to that school. So really, does that give it the weight it should? So
St Thomas's is an All Ireland catchment school.
Okay, being C of E.
Being C of E, it's an All Ireland catchment school.
That's fine. Yeah.
And it's a moral issue. So morally, should we be teaching our children that they are different and have to be in different classrooms with different uniform and different teachers because they are C of E? Or should we actually be embracing the fact that they should all be together, having their education together? That is the question, and it's a moral question. It's not about, yes, there were a lot of people who signed the letter who live in the area because they are concerns about traffic and the impact that's going to have. Fair enough. But the wider issue is the fact that we are taking a step back. We're taking a step back in history where we should have learned by now that actually religion divides us. And we shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't be making it obvious that religion divides us to our children. We should be teaching them that it doesn't matter what religion you are, you all are together as one.
Any idea how many people who are directly affected, like mums and dads of pupils of the school, would either side, from the St Thomas's or whatever, do you know any particular numbers of people against this idea? Is there a lot of people or not?
No, there's a lot of. I think there's a lot of people on both sides. I think a lot of people of Scoill Vallajeelt don't want the separation, but I think, and I'm only speaking from what I've heard as opposed to being directly involved with the St Thomas's parents, but what I've heard from that side of this particular debate is that they want their own school, they want their own community, but they want their own building. They also don't want to be joined in this co-located
so
scenario.
your answer would be what exactly?
Neither are happy. I don't think either side of the coin are happy.
Do you think the church should have paid for the St Thomas's? I mean, they put some money in, haven't they? But
very little compared to what the education department have put in.
Well, I know, but should it be run by a?
So the minister will then, if you happen to be having a conversation with him at some point, he'll probably say to you, yes, but we are in agreement with the Church of England that they are going to give us 50% of the profit or the take-in from when they sell the building. But nobody actually knows who owns the building. That's not out there, is there? There is no, some person, if they have got information on who owns the building, should really be going to the government to show them, because they actually can't tell who owns the building. So how can they be making a promise that, we'll give you 50% of that if they don't actually even know who owns it?
Okay. I do think it seems to a lot of people it's late in the day for all this conversation again. Back to that, because...
No, absolutely, yeah.
Couldn't you not been picketing or doing what everyone else seems to do these days? Placards up outside Tynwald earlier on in this thing?
Yes, I suppose we could have, but the notice went in November and the notice finished in February, and I feel, rightly or wrongly, that it's late in the day because that's the way the Education Department have planned it. So they've planned it to a point that everybody's going to say exactly that. Well, it's too late now, it's a done deal, why are you all moaning? It's going to happen and we all just have to go with it. Our concerns and our issues are just being completely washed by the fact that it's too late in the day, or the Education Department have already decided that this is going to happen, and they are just dismissing our issues. The contempt that the parents feel we are being treated with is actually quite palatable. It's really the atmosphere at the last meeting that we had between the Minister and the Education Department, and the St Thomas's parents were there as well, was horrible. It was really, really contentious, and whenever you said, well, hang on a minute, that's not factually correct, they just went, oh, it's, and just brushed over it. You said, a number of parents have asked, how are you going to deal with the data protection? And there's been nothing forthcoming about that. A number of parents have also asked about have they had a psychological study to see what sort of impact this will have on our children? That's not necessary.
Okay. And they're wearing two different outfits, school uniforms, but eventually they could have merged this. Do you think this would be just a sort of bringing together of these two schools eventually? So it'll suddenly have a new name in a couple of years' time that covers it all.
But why? But then why go through all this pain? Why affect the children that are being affected now? Scoill Vallajeelt children are already being affected by this. They are already being moved from one side of the school to the other so that they can do works within the school, make the changes they want to do, be put into smaller classrooms. All that sort of thing is already happening to our children. So why do that? Why, if that is your end plan to just merge them and you're just doing it to pacify a particular community, just stand up and say, look, this is no longer going to work. This is what we're doing. Save the money.
Okay, but back to this. What can you do now? I'm just asking you, where direct action? You're going to start picketing now, or is it a done deal?
It's a difficult one to call, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, I feel that the more attention we bring to it, hopefully the MHKs will stand by us. So when it goes to Tynwald in April, the MHKs will vote against it. They will vote against the motion, I'm hoping, because ultimately, as representatives of our community, they should be looking at what the community wants. And I'm not just talking about the Douglas South or North, I think is the St Thomas's one, although it's an all-island catchment. They should be looking at what the community actually wants, and they should be voting for what the community wants and what's best for our children, not for what's best for a small section of our society, but what's best for everybody as a whole. Okay, you're saying that the school is already having movements, but is it September as such? You got until September? Well, September.
The new school year, would that be the actual...
Yeah,
so you have got a little bit of time, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, we do.
But the other place is being closed, isn't it, and sold, and was it not gone on the market yet?
Well, it's not on the market yet.
No. Okay.
No.
So it could be stopped, do you think?
That's entirely up to our representatives within government to help us to make sure it is stopped, or at least done in a way that is more sympathetic to everybody as opposed to just one section of our community. The only thing I would say is that Mr. Cuisine is a very hard-headed man, and putting him on the spotlight and saying that the facts that are coming out of a decision that he is making are skewed to their advantage is just going to make him want to dig his heels in.
Okay, well, we'll hope to have a word with him, so we'll see what he has to say in response. But thank you.
Fingers crossed. I also hope that his members of his ward or his would think about the way that he's behaving, not just in this particular matter, when the elections come again.